That's I think that's the most important question, and I do speak about this a lot. Is the fact that um, when you think about every single art movement in history, and you go to a museum, you get a tour, right? You get a tour of the moment. You say, "Oh, the Impressionists," Everybody thought they were crazy at the time, and they were rejected from the traditional art world. And all of a sudden, they're like the most important movement. Or Duchamp. Duchamp was like offensive and insulting the entire art world, right?
Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast, a show where we take a peek into the hearts and lives of our favorite artists. From running a creative business and practice to mindset, we talk about everything that goes behind into making a life and a career that you adore as an artist. Think of this as your happy hour with your favorite artist in your studio. Hear them share the messy and the wonderful side of creating and living a creative, heartfelt life within and outside our studios. As you tune in, be ready to be inspired and encouraged. I'm your host, Charuka Arora, an artist, designer, entrepreneur, and founder of Arts to Hearts project. Thank you so much for being here. Let's jump right in. Before we dig into this episode, I quickly want to remind you about our last international open call of 2021 for women artists. The theme for this open call is home. We are so excited to be hosting this open call in collaboration with our friends at Visionary Art Collective. And this online exhibit will be curated by none other than Victoria J. Fry, who's the founder of Visionary Art Collective. Victoria is a beautiful, beautiful artist, person, and oh my god, the work that she's been doing with Visionary is so amazing. If you still don't know, you really need to check it out. Again, the theme for this open call is home, and the deadline to submit is 13th of December, 12 midnight EST. Selected participants will be a part of an online exhibition hosted on www.artstoheartsproject.com. A few artists will be a part of a special video featuring the theme home. A few artists will be selected to be interviewed on Visionary Art Collective's website by Victoria J. Fry. Selected artists will also be featured on Arts to Hearts and Visionary Art Collective's Instagram account. To submit, you can go either on www.artstoheartsproject.com/submit, or you can also click on the link below and you can find all the, wherever you need to be. So yes, I can't wait to start another year with you all and end this year with this beautiful opportunity. It's such an exciting collaboration. Believe me, this is such a good opportunity. We've worked really hard and we can't wait to see your work. Again, the deadline to submit is 13th of December, 12 midnight EST. We see you soon. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. This is your host, Charuka, and this is the Arts to Hearts podcast. I'm so excited for today. I have a very special guest, someone very different from what we've had before. Like promised, Arts to Hearts is a place where we talk about anything and everything. I always try to create place for a safe space for conversations that may not be um, that we may not have as comfortably as otherwise. We talk about artist stories, new experiences. But today, I thought to bring someone who can not only share her journey but also share some really informational insights with us, with something that's been on rage for for some time now. Welcome to the podcast, Tam.
Thank you so much for having me, Chiruka.
Thank you for coming. So, Tam is the head curator of Showfields and the director of fine arts at Rally Creators. I discovered Tam's work, I think, a couple of years ago when I actually showed with Showfields online. And then we met via Art Queens. I've seen Tam do so many things, and out of which recently is the Rally Creators, which I'm very, very intrigued about, and we're going to dive into. But before we get into all of that, Tam, would you like to introduce yourself for people who are listening right now?
Sure. So, my name is Tam. I'm an art curator. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I'm based right now in Miami. Uh, I specialize my research in how the art world intersects with different industries. So I found, through my experience working with art and urban planning, art and tech, art and retail, art and architecture in different areas, that artists, because they're the moral compass of society, they bring a lot of value to other industries, and they make other industries more accountable for better practices. And at the same time, symbiotically, it is in this tension that exists between the arts and other industries that artists can monetize in new and better ways. So right now, it's been, over a year and a half since I started my deep, deep research into the world of art and crypto. I first heard about NFTs and artists in the blockchain in 2017. Of course, thanks to one of the artists I was working with in one of my shows that was specialized in tech. And he gifted me an NFT and,
Wow.
made me download a wallet. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Um, and since then, this idea of art in the blockchain I was always curious about it, but it was only like almost 2 years ago that I really understood um, the fact that this was going to change the art market forever, because it was the first time that you had like a very trustable technology that could
Yeah.
enforce artist royalties for
Yeah.
perpetuity. And when I heard about like artist royalties being enforced for perpetuity, I literally stopped everything I was doing and I decided to just dedicate myself to this research and seeing where this could lead me and all the artists in my network.
That is so amazing. I have been following you for a while, and what I really, really love about you is your perspective and the amount of upliftment you have for artists. um, and that is something that, of course, we all there should be more in the world, because if anything at all, a lot of people, with the world lockdowns, with everything shutting down, a lot of people have realized that how subconscious, how menial it is, but how important art is, for documenting, for lineages, for sharing information and experiences, and psychological, economical, social, so many aspects. um, I have always really admired what you do at Showfields, and it's also very amazing how Showfields work, how the design, tech, art, retail integration of Showfields has also been new, and you've now taken that further step of being a thorough advocate of NFTs. And with Rally Creators, you've been talking about Discord, you've been talking about creating alternate communities for artists for themselves, creating their own economies. I know a lot of people who would be listening to this episode, um, with the words that we'll be using, maybe it would be a little overwhelming. But I genuinely wanted to do this episode because, I totally believe that this is something that we all need. I think the first thing is that even if people have resistance towards thing, I think it's a great start to at least learn about things, if nothing. So
Yeah.
today we are going to ask you a lot of questions um, with how things work and what NFTs and when what do you mean when you say Discord communities, creating alternative economies, artist currencies. And let's start from the beginning. How someone who's
Yeah.
listening to this episode, what is the simplest way we can introduce this concept to them?
Okay. So, first of all, I think it's important to understand the stage of the world we are in right now and why all of a sudden this became so important, right? So, in order just to give a little bit of context, it's important to understand the internet, because crypto is like if the internet and your bank or money had a baby, okay? And just by saying that, this means that this is really powerful technology, okay? It can do a lot of things, this intersection. So if you think about the internet, since we've had the internet, from the late 80s forward, it's that's what we call right now, we call that Web 1, which is the first stage of the internet. Okay, so in Web 1, you had companies that were email providers, or companies that were marketplace providers, in which you could buy physical goods and improve communications, right? And in that stage of the internet, companies created all of the value, and companies monetized from all of the value that they created. And then in the 2000s, we had what we now see as Web 2. Web 2 is an era of the internet in which users like you and me created a lot of the content and a lot of the value. For example, social media is a perfect example of Web 2, right? We spend countless of hours on social media creating a lot of value, but we don't own the rights to even the photos of our
Yeah.
children that we put on social media, right? It's
Yes.
Facebook
Yes.
and big tech companies that own the value, own and monetize from the value.
Yeah.
Companies like Uber, right? It's the gig economy. It changed the world and definitely democratized work for a lot of people. But still, it's Uber and the big companies that are gaining from most of the time and effort that users like you and me put into those companies. And right now, we are at the cusp of a very important historical moment, which is Web3. Okay. And Web3, which includes crypto, and crypto is like a big reason why we're moving from Web2 to Web3, is this idea that us as users, we create the value, and we should also own that property and also monetize from that property. Okay. So it's not really a coincidence at all that NFTs boomed during COVID 19. Okay, just like you're saying, we were all indoors. The only way that we could communicate with each other was through our devices. On the one hand, it was very difficult to have that separation from people physically. On the other hand, more people like you and me started connecting and creating these new forms of communication, because we became much more immersed and spending much more time in the digital world than we spend
Yeah.
on the physical world.
Yeah.
During COVID-19, all of our cell phone uses went up like 62%. Computer use went up. Zoom, it's incessant. People are totally fatigued from Zoom. Right now, there's conversations about Facebook becoming the metaverse, which is almost
Yeah.
like a 3D
3D.
Zoom world, right?
Yeah.
So that's that's what I think right now. We're in the middle of a digitalization movement. Okay, so
Yeah.
since the beginning of Web 1 up
Okay.
until today, the amount of time that we spend the same way we are spending this time right now, you and I, in the digital world or the metaverse, this is where the world is leading towards. Okay, so it's
Okay.
art's job to reflect this phenomenon, and that's why NFTs, which have existed since 2017, um, have now become mainstream. So in order to understand NFTs, I think it's important to understand blockchain technology.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think in the future people will not really try to understand blockchain
Yes.
technology and how it works. It's like right now I would be speaking to you about IP and how the internet works, and um,
Yes.
it's like we don't know. Internet is just the
Yeah.
air we breathe, right?
Yes,
But
it
uh,
becomes second nature. We become so familiar and so adaptable to it that it no longer is a question. Like I still remember, like so if you just know, like India, a lot of technology in India is a little. It comes a little later, launching and and especially the early generations. I still remember like when just the B2C boom happened in India. The B2C e-commerce happened, and suddenly we're a country where it's highly dependent on offline markets. There's mom and pop shops and all of those things, and suddenly there were curious, you know, coming to their doors, and people still wouldn't understand that how is this happening, like why would someone come for free of cost and do this for you. And now a lot of like it feels it's obligatory. We expect that um B2C e-commerce or like all of these things are just so acceptable because it's become, but when they were fresh, it wouldn't people wouldn't understand why would someone do this, why would this exist.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what's going to happen with crypto down the line. Is that people right now are obsessing over the technology and how it works, and is it secure, and how do you create these things, and how much electricity it takes. And I think all of this is just going to scale up to a point in which it's just going to be another version of the internet, and we're not really going to think about like the intricacies of how it works, but more like what can this do for us, and what can this do for artists and people who support artists and creative communities, which is where I'm trying to focus.
Okay, so let's say someone who has, I think, let's say an average person up till a point. A lot of people have learned how to use social media, in their art careers. Let's also say they know how to set up their websites, maybe sell via Instagram and all of those things. Let's say who we are talking to and someone who's listening to this episode would know things so far. Now, let's say when we are saying the shift is happening, how can artists take that first step without being overwhelmed? And how can they move forward?
Okay. I would say, you know, it's important to consider like the use of social media, because the crypto art movement and crypto in general is community based. It's not
Okay.
about a single individual doing a single NFT, or a single individual, trying to sell one piece of art. It's about community. What does this mean? Most of the artists that are first movers and successful in the crypto art project, they're not working alone. They're working together with a team of people that they are rewarding that group of people for the time that they spend supporting that artist, or the rights of the works are being shared by the members of the community. And that's why it's important to consider like these community building tools that we've gone from social media where people can just like and comment, but you really have no idea like who those people are and what do they do or how they can get involved, to places like Discord, or where people can get involved and say, "Oh, I'm a developer. Can I help you? I'm an architect. Can I come and like help you set up your installation?" It becomes more of a community driven effort. Okay, so any artist can go right now to any of the platforms like OpenSea, Nifty Gateway, or um, Rarible, like any of those platforms, and try to mint an NFT. There's instructions on how to do it, and you can do it. But that's like a one-time thing. It's really not gonna cut it. Like you
Yeah.
need to create a sense of community and
Yes.
engage the community, to like what's the purpose of your NFTs. So
Yes.
if you think of a digital future in which people are spending money to own digital things. Like, for example, I would buy an NFT that becomes the backdrop of my Zoom calls, or eventually it's going to be my house in the metaverse. Or I buy an NFT that becomes my avatar, which means my profile picture, which then Twitter will authenticate, through my wallet and say, yes, that is her NFT. This all of a sudden creates groups of people that are identifying with a certain artist or a certain group of artists, such as like the crypto punks or the bored apes, or um, a lot of the different projects that are coming up right now. So if you think about the future of these NFTs, they're like, once an artist comes up with an avatar project, just to give you an
Okay.
example, which really means like our identity in the digital space. You know, it's
Yes.
like the
I
photo ID that we
Yeah.
choose
I
instead
think
of
we
the one
all
that
know
the
that.
government gives. Yeah.
I think we all know that by Orkuts and like I remember still these before we even had the concept of really putting our own pictures. We would
Hmm.
have these avatars that people would go crazy and make all of that. It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's nice. Yeah. Okay, I have
Yeah.
another question, which is
Yes.
a very basic question for people from artists, which is how is Discord different for them versus social media, and w- how should they use Discord to their positive?
So the main difference between Discord and social media is that uh, in social media you have like followers. Like I said, you don't really know these people. You might have like a DM conversation with one or another if they reach out, but you cannot have like full transparency onto who is there and what do they want from you, right? As an artist. In Discord, the communication is not just one way between you and someone else on a DM, but it's a forum in which everybody is speaking to everybody. And you can gate and create almost like layers within that forum. For example, if you're an artist, you have a whole channel for your art handlers and installers and people who help you, create your dreams and make it come to life. You have another channel for your collectors. So you have direct one-on-one full transparency communication with all of your collectors. You might have another channel for your gallery or different curators or collaborators. Um, and this is the sort of thing that creates community. Like artists don't
Yeah,
necessarily right now are thinking about all of the people that they need
yeah,
in order to make their work happen, and
yeah,
sort of like aggregating them into one communication channel and
yes,
giving them incentives to thank them for their support, because helping an artist, even if you're a collector or you're just liking and sharing their work, is something that is going to be rewarded in Web3. So whether you use something like a social token, like you could have, for example, the Charuka token or the Art Heart token,
love
and
that.
you could give that token for free to everyone in your community who is listening to you regularly, who is giving you feedback, who is providing value to you, because
Okay,
the beauty about crypto is that it's money that goes in a circular way.
circular way.
Like if you hold a coin and somebody else holds a coin, now you're both wanting to make that dream bigger and better. And it's
Yeah,
not just like a transaction in which I give you $100, you give me a service, or you give me an art piece, and then I'm done with you. Like it doesn't glue us together in any way, shape, or form. So there's many ways that we could build that community, and crypto gives artists those tools. Whether it's NFTs, social tokens, a gated Discord channel, um, and many other tools that are coming up, because this is an industry that's like starting to get built right now.
yeah,
It's very exciting for artists to be able to take autonomy of their own
yeah.
economy and to receive royalties in perpetuity.
What do you think about what we're speaking is something I still remember 2018. I don't know what I mean. Of course it was my entire community is based in the US, so I'm also going to not only because India is way behind in this conversation, like not that India is not there, but I just feel like there are very few people still talking about this. But I still remember, I even in 2018 I saw a lot of my colleagues artists who were still in contempt about, they were taking like, should we come online, should we have a shop, should we have a website, should we, there were still so many who were still on the edge because they were very comfortable working offline. They had the fear that would they be discarded if and honestly that is the biggest fear a lot of artists had at that point, the fear of being discarded by the offline or the traditional channels like the galleries if they take that leap of faith. And because because we're also taught this for ages, that you know what a successful artist means, what a successful artist means, what the definition and the path of a successful artist is. But post pandemic, during that pandemic, a lot of artists took that leap of faith. They were forced to take that leap of faith. A lot of people, created their own communities, like myself. I know so many of my friends, all of us have launched our platforms because we knew that we needed to take that step. Otherwise, we would isolate ourselves to no extent. Uh, a lot of people started getting independent. A lot of artists found a lot of success. The fear went away. Now, when we speak about NFTs and creating their own communities, what do you think is the future? What do you envision? Okay, my paps here. What do you
That's a
envision?
I think that's the most important question, and I do speak about this a lot. Is the fact that um, when you think about every single art movement in history, and you go to a museum, you get a tour, right? You get a tour of the MoMA, and you say, "Oh, the Impressionists," Everybody thought they were crazy at the time, and they were rejected from the traditional art world, and all of a sudden they're like the most important movement. Or Duchamp was like
Yes,
offensive and
Bishop. Yeah.
insulting the entire art world, right?
Yes, exactly. The
And
first
and the
time he
same
did
thing,
it.
yeah, and the same
the- mm,
exact thing is happening right now, where people are like, are NFTs art, or are they not art, or they're crazy, or that shouldn't be considered, and they're not realizing that it's the exact same pattern of a new art movement happening under their nose. Um, And I personally have a lot of colleagues in the art world, in the traditional art world, that are like completely rejecting the crypto art movement and NFTs, because it's scary to think about a new movement. It's scary to think about a new world order. Um,
And
but
it's
for me,
also because it
yeah,
threatens their world. I mean, if Duchamp has wouldn't have done that, um, it wouldn't have changed a lot of things that are here today. It wouldn't have created that movement. And if there is no resistance, there is no movement.
exactly. And to me, that's like that tension is where I like what I like the most, because I think that's
Yes.
the space of most growth, the space of most
Yes.
innovation, the space of most opportunity for artists. And you can see that in every new art movement, or whenever you work with artists and in different industries. It's not
Yeah.
easy to work with artists in retail, or to try to
Oh,
create a brand,
absolutely.
an artist collaboration with a brand. Like, there's tension there. You have to have conversations about profits, and conversations about alignment, and people outside the art world don't understand artist brains, don't know you know why they think, or why
Yeah.
they do, and they just think, oh, their artists are being a diva, or artists, they don't care about money. I'm like, all of
Yeah.
that is wrong.
But yeah,
It's just,
absolutely.
yeah. So I think, I think it's kind of my job and mission to like debunk a lot of those obsolete thoughts about like the starving artist, and art movements having to be a certain way so that they can fit into a certain aesthetic, or they can fit into um, something that the art world is comfortable with. But
Yeah.
I believe this comes from the fact that the art world is an unregulated industry. There isn't many
Yeah.
laws regulating the art world.
Yes,
So the art world
absolutely.
compensates by like over overcompensates by like
Yes.
self-regulation in a way.
Yes.
And artists are the ones who suffer from
Suffer
that,
the
because
most.
they get punished by institutions, they get punished by collectors for being interdisciplinary, or trying out a different thing. And it's really just the opposite of what art should be, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, actually, that's a very good point. What I also feel is a lot of those gatekeepers and people who also make these rules are not the creators themselves. I feel like in any economy, in any supply demand chain or any chain, if the makers are not kept in the center of that economy, they are the ones that end up being exploited. And
being taken advantage of, what is which is quite true in the case of artists right now, especially with the traditional model, because the model is not made for them. It feels like now the artists are made for the model. um, I understand the idea that, of course, like I have nothing. I mean, I love collaborations, be it with a gallery or be with other anyone. But what I feel is limiting is when a lot of artists are told, when we're told, like, if you do this, someone's not going to work with you. If you become independent, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah,
If you become too tech savvy, people will think this, or like, these are very real time fears a lot of people have with
yeah,
a they feel overwhelmed because I feel artists are already, like, it's a lot of times, majority of times, it's a one man show. We are the producer, the creator, the artist, the social media, the financer, the accountant, like from A to Z, we're everything. And
yeah.
anything which is uh, new, especially technology, is overwhelming for a lot of people who come from the arts, because of course the adaptation is still happening. um
Yeah.
let's I'm just trying to break this down a little bit more for people who are listening. I just want anyone who goes or and listens to this entire episode, they are able to take one step forward. A, we're able to reduce their overwhelm, and B, at least we are able to give them five actionable tips, like how can they move if they have the interest, how can they move forward. One, in creating their own communities. I think a lot of us understand the concept of community right now.
I
Let's
think,
talk about
wait,
how.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop you there because I think, artists need to learn more about this Web3 movement before even starting to,
Okay.
even if you tell an artist right now, like, go start your community, I don't think that's the first step. I think there needs to be a lot of education before an artist can,
Yes.
like, even know how to set up a Web3 style community. They need to be part of another artist community before, maybe figure out,
Yes.
like, who are the leaders of this movement and what are they building and how are they building it, in order to figure out, like, how does this translate to their own practices. um, so I think, because,
Yes.
if I
That's a very
if I
good
go
point,
right now
actually.
and I tell an artist, like, go on, like, start a Discord and build a community, like, it needs to be authentic to what this movement is bringing, right? And I think many artists are not interested in building communities, to be honest with you. I think a lot of artists are just interested in being in their studios and doing the work. And I think for this type of artists, they need to get together with a lot of other types of artists like this and start communities together, almost like collectives,
Yes.
like artist collectives. Um,
Yes.
but step one is just to try to listen and learn and form part of other communities so that you understand, like, how important it is and what are they building and how are they communicating and how would this work for, like, 90% of artists out there.
Amazing. So yeah, I actually, you've reframed it very well. That's absolutely true for a lot of people who don't know about this. What are good resources that you would recommend? Do you have any recommendations for people to start with?
Yes, I think it's important to read about, like, the Web3 creative economy in general. There's a lot of leaders in the space, like Chris Dixon from A16Z, which is a fund that has invested in a lot of these projects. Read about the history of NFT projects, how they work. Potentially try to get involved into one of their discords just to see how it is.
Yeah.
Look online at the look at how the blockchain cells work, from the
Yes.
person who created the first NFT, how it goes from hand to hand. Read about the royalties. Read about the different platforms out there. How are they different from each other? I'm going to spend more time doing courses and education around this because
Oh
I
wow.
do want as many artists, curators, and creative communities as possible to, like, move on to, like, a more sustainable model. Um,
Yeah.
so I will always be posting like about resources like this. But again, this is like a plane that's being built while it's flying in midair. So there is no
Yeah.
place right now where all the information is centralized. Like I
Is there?
spent years
Yeah.
listening to podcasts and looking at YouTube videos and reading tweets and just like um, it's a never-ending learning process because it's being
Yeah.
built. So I think it's
Yeah.
a super exciting moments for artists to start looking into this, and I'm sure they'll find the space of what it is they want to create and how it is that they want to contribute to this movement and contribute to their communities that have been supporting us and all of our practices for all of Web 2.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. Okay. Would you also want to talk a little bit about rally creators and what is exactly rally creators and what you're doing with rally creators?
Yes. So right now, people are really obsessing about NFTs because it's like the first crypto tool that people know about. But the truth is that there are more than just NFTs. And at Rally, we believe that a true autonomous economy is composed of NFTs, social tokens, and community building tools such as Discord and many, many others that are coming up. Um, so, social tokens are the cryptocurrency of a community. So, imagine that you had your own social token for your podcast. It would be called like the Chakura token, and we would mint it on the
Okay.
blockchain. So it's actual
Okay.
liquid money that you can
Yeah.
use within your community. Uh, so imagine like a Starbucks rewards type of system, but yet you can
Yeah.
actually imagine that you could liquidate your Starbucks rewards
Yeah.
into US dollars. Like how much more powerful
Okay.
would that be, or like how
That
much
becomes.
more power, like voting and governance power, you would have as a consumer of Starbucks if you actually owned part of that economy. um,
Yeah.
so again, because the creative process is like in a feedback loop with the audience, there is no musician without an audience. There is no artists without the whole ecosystem of museum and museum goers and artists and galleries, etc. So we've created these tokens at Rally Creators so that we can bind the community together and so that we can all monetize together. So the artist or the museum or whoever is issuing this social token is the major shareholder of an independent economy that needs doesn't need a bank and doesn't need a third party and doesn't need to be in a specific location and doesn't need to be uh, governed by any of like traditional money laws, and can share
Okay.
that wealth within the community. So you can say something like, whoever holds 100 or 200 of my tokens will be able to come with me to studio visits, or I'm going to issue NFTs which you can buy with my tokens, or tickets to my next show will be bought with my token. So instead of using like a traditional economy, you would use your own autonomous economy and you get all of the upside from it. So if your token, increases in value, people who hold it within your community and you as well could benefit from this. Or there's you get rewarded from the system for using these tokens. There's many ways in which this economy can grow and everyone involved can monetize and fundraise for their project.
Oh, wow. There's so much. It feels like it definitely is a whole wide world that you need to step in. I see so many artists who are still like who are intrigued. I know a lot of us are intrigued, and we're trying to find our ways and experiment. And I think the best way to even learn something is just, of course, first is research, and then second is
Hmm.
just taking that leap of faith and taking one step at a time and just seeing how it works. And
Yeah.
if it's something that you'd be interested or not, or if you just keep experimenting.
I'll give
um
you an example, like a tangible example. There's a very well known graphic designer by the name of James Somerville. He used to be the C-level designer at Coca Cola. So he has access in his network to all of the Fortune 500 companies, right? So he decided to start his own community and create his own social token in which he invited graphic designers from all over the world to be part of this community. So he has like 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds who are just starting to learn about graphic design. And he has all the way up until like 80-year-olds who who have been graphic designers and still are and just want to learn new techniques, or they want to teach young people and everyone in between. And he has geographies from everywhere, from Nigeria to Brazil and everything in between. So what he does is that, for example, one of his contacts, like Ford company, says, I want a new campaign for graphic design. So James brings it to his community, and everybody has a chance to apply to create a creative proposal for them. And within the community, they vote, they decide which are the best proposals, which are they going to present, and everyone gets paid in their own community cryptocurrency. And that
oh
means that no
wow.
matter where you are, you can get paid. You don't need to
Yes.
be like a 30-year-old in New York in order to get good opportunities. You don't need to go after visas. You don't need any of the bureaucracy and permissions that you need to work in Web2. But
Yeah.
it's like democratizing creative communities in a way that we've never seen before. And James is a total pioneer, but I definitely see this happening across many other creative verticals.
Yeah. This is so interesting. And I definitely feel like, ever since I've been researching a little bit more every day about all of this, it does feel like it's the tipping, like it's just the tip of the iceberg. And the whole transformation and, uh, how industrialization, urbanization, all of these, like this digitization is really going to bring a new face. For this creative community, and I feel like this time the face will not be the gatekeepers but the artists themselves. I think the biggest challenge, especially with this movement, I personally as an artist myself feel is, um, to take this forward. A lot of artists, all of us, need to believe in ourselves way more than we expect, way more than we have a habit of, because um, we this is a complete chance for us to take everything in our hand and believe that we can run our own shows 100%, and that we can be valued way more than we've ever been.
Yeah, that makes, I think you're right. Like, this is a historical, like, there's a new renaissance happening. If you think about the renaissance in the 1400s, the it came about because of the printing press and the booking system, like the accounting double ledger booking system. And that made money much more accessible to people, and it made information much more accessible to people because they could print whatever they want and distribute it. They didn't need the permission from the royalty or the permission from the church back in the day. And I think, it's always technology that brings this sort of like renaissance
Yes.
in which new ideas get
Yes.
distributed and new artwork is created. And there's all of a sudden like this new mediums and bursts of creativity happening. And again, if you look at history, you'll always find a parallel for what's happening right now. And this is
Yeah.
exactly the moment that we're living in.
Yeah. I can so agree to that. Okay. About NFTs and everything, we've not got a chance to speak a little bit about you. And I really, before we end the episode, I just want to ask you a few more questions about how you've been where you are today. My first question is, where we start from here is, what really has brought you here? You're really passionate about, um, tech, transformation, artist. How do you find yourself here? How did it all started for you?
Um, I was for me, the artists are my biggest inspiration. Whenever, I spend time with an artist in their studio or speaking to them, that my mind just opens. And whenever you have an experience like that, you kind of want everyone to have that experience. That's why I decided I'm going to dedicate my life to advocate for the arts, because I think art's job in society is to open people's minds. And the root of all evil is a closed mind. So, it's a very spiritual thing for me. But having, tried everything in the art world, from working for art collections, working for institutions, working for galleries, working for art fairs, creating my own, you know, experiential shows. And then I decided that the real impact would come from trying to push the edges of the art world, trying to almost fight against that closed mindedness that the art world is famous for, but also is contradictory to what art should be. I
Yeah.
I don't really like this debate of like to be or not to be art. I think everything is art. I think what my 4 and 5 year
Yes.
old, 6 year old do is art. Um, I
Yes,
just think
absolutely.
that the difference between important art and not important art is not in the aesthetics. It's in
Yeah.
it's in how art reflects some truth that is generational or universal, that is happening at a certain moment in time. That for me is important art. That is why there's certain artists that make into museums and certain artists who do not. Like, are you reflecting something that people in this day and age can identify with? You know, a new idea, a new
Yeah.
movement, an advancement in history. Even if it's introspective work, it has to,
Yeah.
like, it somehow has to relate to other people, and it has to relate
Yeah.
to like a certain moment in time. And when I
Yes.
first heard about crypto, I had this sort of epiphany, which you learn how to recognize within yourself at a certain age, um, in which you know truth when you see it. And there's no technology in the world that is perfect. There's no technology in the world that doesn't come with a dark side or an evil side.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I think the benefits of crypto definitely outweigh the negatives. And we live
Negatives.
in an age where artists have increasing power. Like, in crypto, artists have all of the power.
All
And
flowers.
it's
Yes.
just very exciting to see artists like just taking that leverage and everything they have built in the last 20 years and using it to call the shots and tell their communities how they want to work, to be able to for all of us to be able to live our passions and also monetize from them. It's the first time
Yeah.
in history that happened.
Yes. This is so true. And I think it's even more, I think what is exciting, what you're seeing today is exciting, but what's even more exciting is how we're all at such a great time where we are going to witness this transformation, this change that's going to happen, the shifting movement. Because again, it's all about this process. Of course, we'll reach a destination someday or the other, but everything that happens in between is is an experience in itself. Okay, I want to say a big thank you for your time, Tam, and thank you so much for answering all um, all my questions. I still have a lot of them. I know a lot of people who would be listening to this episode would have, but you've given us a way forward. I am so intrigued now. I think after this, the next thing I'm going to do is do my research, and you've given me such great ideas. Maybe you'll, maybe not. I will. I will send very soon. You'll see the the channel for Arts to Hearts, the social tokens, because I feel like as someone who's also like actively creating community, and I work in it, I'm running an international community, and for me, I think the biggest challenge is I also want to learn ways where I can unify my community and audience, and give a sense of belongingness. That does not matter that what part of the world that we all come from. But when we're here, we all feel same. We all feel connected, and it would be really exciting to to have something that that is our own. So maybe yes, we'll have the ATH tokens. We'll have yes. I'm going to keep you updated about it, and I hope more people who are listening. Yes, yes, we will. Okay, I want to say a big thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thank you. Okay, last question. Thank you. Okay, my last question is, do you have something that you would want to share with us? Any project that you're working on that people can follow up on, look at, and where can people find you, support you, and just learn more, your courses, everything that you've been offering?
Yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time in Twitter lately, just because that's where crypto is. Like the same way art is on Instagram, most of the crypto world is on Twitter, and they're almost like two different things that I'm trying to unite. Um, but I'm always posting my thoughts about it, where I think artists should do and be doing and start thinking about. Um, you should follow Rally.io, Rally Creators, which is crypto for creative communities. And just learn as much as you can about this Web3 movement and how to get involved, because it's a movement about creativity and abundance together.
Oh my God, I love that. This is so amazing. I think it's so empowering also, even as artists, to feel that we're such at a great time right now, because never in history have this happened before. Never have artists given, like, can take, it's not even given. I mean, you can, if you are ready, if you want, you can take all the power in your hand and live the way that you want, and work the way you want. So it'll be very interesting to see more and more creatives mm, pave their own paths, literally.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tam. I'm going to link
Thank
Tam's
you.
Instagram, Twitter, Rally Creators, and everything else that we've spoken about in this episode in the show notes. So make sure you check out the show notes for this episode. You'll find all the links mentioned here and about Tam and all the work that she's been doing. Thank you so much, Tam. I hope I can see you very soon again. And I'll keep you updated on the channel and the social tokens. And I'm going to send you first. You'll be the first person to receive it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find all the details and links mentioned in the show notes of this episode available on www.arts2heartsproject.com. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to tag us in your stories and leave us a review here on iTunes or any of your favorite platforms. It really helps us to keep the show going. Thank you so much. I'm sending you lots of love, and I can't wait to be back here soon again. Bye.